You've probably said it before. I would never do that. You've watched the news, seen someone cross a line, and felt certain you're different, certain you'd resist. But the real answer is far stranger. In August of 1971, a group of ordinary young men walked into a basement at Stanford University. They were college students, healthy, screened for stability. Nothing separated them from you. A coin flip decided their fate. Half became guards, half became prisoners. Nothing else changed. Same background, same city, same age. Only the label. Within a day, something shifted. The guards, who had no training and no real authority, started giving orders. Small orders at first. Stand here, recite your number. Then the orders got sharper. By day 2, prisoners were being stripped of privileges for no reason. By day 4, some guards were inventing punishments, push-ups, humiliation, isolation. One guard began speaking in a voice that wasn't his own. The psychologist running the study was Philip Zimbardo. He didn't design it to prove cruelty. He designed it to ask a quieter question. Is a bad person the reason bad things happen? Or is a bad situation enough on its own? He planned 2 weeks. He stopped it after 6 days. It had gone further than anyone expected, including him. Here's the part most people get wrong when they hear this story. They think it's about guards being cruel. It's not. It's about how fast identity bends. Zimbardo later called it de-individuation. That's a long word for a simple idea. When you lose your name and gain a role, you start protecting the role instead of yourself. A uniform did that. A title did that. A badge, a number, a costume. The guards weren't told to be harsh. They were told to keep order. Their brains filled in the rest. Why does this happen so fast? Your brain is not built to hold "I am a good person," and "I am now in charge of controlling other people" at the same time without friction. Something has to give. Usually the role wins, not because you're weak, because the human brain evolved in small tribal groups where roles meant survival. The hunter protected the group, the chief kept order. If your tribe gave you power, refusing that power could get you cast out, and in the ancient world, being cast out was often a death sentence. So somewhere deep in your wiring, accepting a role isn't optional, it's instinct. This wasn't the only study to find this. A decade earlier, a psychologist named Stanley Milgram ran a different experiment just a few states away at Yale. He told ordinary volunteers to deliver what they believed were painful electric shocks to another person, simply because a man in a lab coat told them to continue. Most of them did, not because they were monsters, because authority, once accepted, is hard to interrupt. Zimbardo's prisoners and guards weren't shocking anyone, but the underlying mechanism was the same one Milgram found. Ordinary people, extraordinary pressure, and a role that quietly rewrites behavior. Think about your own week for a second. You've probably felt this exact shift, just in a smaller key. Maybe you're calm at home and sharp at work. Maybe you're gentle with your friends and cold with strangers in traffic. That's not hypocrisy. That's the same mechanism Zimbardo caught on tape, just turned down to a whisper. The moment you put on a uniform, badge, title, or even just walk into a specific building, your brain quietly asks, "What does this role expect of me?" And it starts adjusting before you've consciously decided anything. There's a twist buried in the data that almost nobody talks about. Not every guard turned harsh. About a third stayed decent the entire time. They followed the rules but never invented cruelty of their own. A few even snuck extra food to prisoners at night. Zimbardo noticed this too, decades later when he studied heroism instead of harm. He wanted to know what separated the guards who resisted the pull from the ones who didn't. The answer surprised people expecting a simple story about good and evil. It wasn't intelligence, it wasn't moral belief, at least not on its own. The guards who resisted were the ones who kept a piece of their old identity active while wearing the new one. They still thought of themselves as a student first, a guard second. The ones who went furthest let the role become the whole self. Nothing else was left to check it. A psychologist named Craig Haney, who worked alongside Zimbardo on the original study and later spent decades researching real prison systems, found this same pattern outside the lab too. Environments that strip away someone's outside identity, whether that's a prison, a cult, or an anonymous online account, make cruelty easier, not because people change, but because the parts of them that would normally object go quiet. That detail matters more today than it did in 1971. You don't need a basement and a coin flip anymore. You just need a screen name,